Israel has fought at least 5 wars with Hamas over the past 17 years. These wars did not bring peace and security to Israel. What makes you think you will succeed this time around?
So this is different. We've stated a goal that we have never stated in the past, and that is to end Hamas's control over the Gaza Strip. And so the goal of the operation is to create a new reality in Gaza.
According to an investigation by Amnesty International, and I'm quoting, Israeli forces have shown a shocking disregard for civilian lives. They have pulverized street after street of residential buildings, killing civilians on a mass scale.
I reject the accusation. Before starting our military campaign against Hamas, we made a maximum effort, and it's been documented, to encourage civilians to leave the war zone.
Mr. Regev, you talk as if there's places to hide from the bombs in Gaza. You tell people to go to southern parts of Gaza, and then your Air Force bombs areas in the south, killing people there. Where should people go?
So that we have designated, there's an answer to that question. We have shared with the Americans and the United Nations specific zones, which are safe zones. They're in the south.
This is totally new to me. When did you share these zones?
A week ago, when we started talking about moving to the south, because up
until
now...
A week ago, so you've been bombing for 6 weeks.
Mainly in the north.
Then you provide safe zones?
When you're in a difficult war situation, it's all about managing risk. And so by telling people leave the north and move south, we're actually managing risk. They are much safer in the south than in the north.
90% of the bombs you've dropped on Gaza have been 500 to 1,000 kilograms each, according to military experts quoted by The Times. These bombs have caused extreme death and destruction. How can Israel claim that its forces are avoiding civilian casualties, as you say, while dropping tens of thousands of these massive bombs?
So we are bombing Hamas infrastructure. We're bombing Hamas's military machine. We're trying to be as surgical as is humanly possible.
Mr. Regev, have you seen the pictures from Gaza?
Of course. But I would tell you...
I have to say something, sir. Surgical attacks?
I have seen...
Have you seen the drone pictures of the massive destruction?
But once again, these are targets that Hamas has turned into a war zone.
International rights groups say Hamas and Israel should be investigated for war crimes. Will Israel allow investigators from the International Criminal Court to enter Gaza?
So we are not committing war crimes. We believe our behavior, we know our behavior conforms with international standards of warfare.
For 2 months, you and the Egyptians have denied international press access to the Gaza Strip. In Egypt's case, it figures. It's a dictatorship. There is no freedom of press there. Israel, on the other hand, prides itself as the only democracy in the Middle East. Why won't you allow journalists to enter Gaza?
It's a war zone. It's very dangerous. We do press enter when it's feasible for us.
But it's on your terms. It's an embed with IDF.
Because it's a combat zone.
How can we know that what you are saying is true when you don't allow international observers, where you don't allow international press?
Check me.
How can we check? We're not on the ground. We're not on the ground with you.
You are invited to join one of our press...
where you decide where we go, who we talk to, what we film, and you control our footage.
On the contrary. If the BBC did it, if CNN did it, yes? It's not professional, of course it's professional.
But is that your definition of how free press should operate?
I would say to you...
With all those constraints?
I would say to you that Israel is known for having a free press.
The democratic state of Israel is controlling half of Gaza. Why don't you allow us to go
in there?
It's still
a war zone. It's still a war zone.
We can take care of our security.
Sorry. We have a responsibility. We don't allow civilians into a war zone. That would be irresponsible.
Let's move on. You talked about the displaced people. The war has forced 1.7 million Gazans from their homes. Why won't you allow them back to their homes in northern Gaza?
Because it's still a war zone. And we say when the fighting is over, people can return. Of course they can.
Palestinians in Gaza claim Israel has a more sinister plan of displacing them. Is this true?
Hamas propaganda.
Why then did your intelligence ministry draft a wartime proposal right after you invaded Gaza to transfer Gaza's 2.2 million people to Egypt's Sinai Peninsula?
So we have a large bureaucracy. And the job of the bureaucracy is to produce papers and to think ideas, to come out with ideas. And
why come up with such an idea?
so it's not government policy, but it's the job of people.
Anyway, if you say it's not part of your plan, why?
It's not policy. It's
but
not
why,
policy.
if it's not your plan to displace people from Gaza to Egypt, why has your boss, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, been lobbying the EU to pressure Egypt into accepting refugees from Gaza, according to the Financial Times?
So we would urge all countries to accept refugees from Gaza. We think that's the humane thing to do.
So you have been lobbying the EU to accept.
We've been urging all countries to accept Palestinian refugees, and even if they're just to accept people to go to hospitals and things, we think that's part of our goal, which is not to see innocent civilians caught up in the crossfire. This is humanitarian. Why are you making it sinister?
Because they fear they will never be able to come back.
We will give guarantees that people can come back.
So you guarantee that?
Yes.
The Israeli website Ynet has reported that your government has offered to pay off a chunk of Egypt's foreign debt in exchange for accepting Gazan refugees. Is this true?
All I can say is we've been urging all countries to accept refugees from the conflict precisely because we don't want to see innocent civilians caught up in the crossfire.
Have you offered this to Egypt?
We've talked to many countries about different things.
Tamir Pardo, a former Mossad chief, recently said Israel is enforcing an apartheid system in the West Bank. He said, and I quote, "In a territory where two people are judged under two legal systems, that is an apartheid state." How would you respond to that?
So the factual part is correct. In other words, there is Israeli law for Israeli citizens. And
settlers who are living there illegally according to international law.
We don't obviously accept that, but there's Israeli law for Israeli citizens and Palestinians living there are under military law. But if you make one legal system, there's a word for that. That's called annexation, which the international community opposes and most Israelis don't want to do.
So you prefer military rule over the Palestinians?
As a temporary solution until we can find permanent agreements, I can't see an alternative. It is illogical to say to Israelis, you're not allowed to annex, but you've got two legal systems. So what is the alternative? There isn't an alternative. It's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.